What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 67. We have Nasruddin Imavov going against Sean Strickland.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all of this. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for the first card of the year. Really looking forward to it. UFC Vegas 67, we have a 12-fight card, and honestly, a very interesting card. A card where I'm going to be very light from a betting perspective. I actually like this fight card from a DraftKings perspective the most, so most of my money is going to be on DraftKings for this week. But yeah, lots of wide lines. I feel like there's going to be a lot of finishes on this card, so I think it's going to be a very fun DraftKings slate, so definitely can't wait to break it all down. Lots of stuff opening up throughout the week as well, so we'll talk about all of that. Before we get into the video, though, if you guys can please leave a like on the video. It does go a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel. It is much appreciated. Trying to reach 20k subs, hopefully in the very near future here in 2023. And it is also a great time to sign up on DFSbythenumbers.com. It is January, nice and early here. If you do want to check out that DFS option, the $10 DFS option, with that you get access to my MMA model with all the stats, my lineup optimizer, which is probably the biggest value for this DFS part here. The targets, the rankings, the GPP lineup percentages, access to Discord, the projections, just a ton of stuff in that DFS model there. So lots of value with that for $10 a month. And I'm also doing a promo for January. If you do sign up for a yearly package, it could be the DFS, the betting, or the DFS and betting combined. For one, it's 10% off, so you're already getting a free month with the yearly. And then two, I'm going to send out a free t-shirt to whoever signs up for that yearly package there with me. So it's $108 a year, which is a very good deal, less than $10 a month per card. So I put a lot of work, a lot of effort. I do appreciate everybody that has signed up, and to everybody that is going to sign up in the future, but wanted to get that out of the way because we are going to be starting the new year here. All right, but yeah, say we get into it, and as always, we're going to start with the fight doesn't go to decision lines, and we have some pretty big ones here. So the first one is going to be Alisson Ribeiro, minus 600, fight doesn't go to decision. And yeah, this is going to be a fight you're going to want to target, especially at these price tags. We have 8,300 for Alisson, 7,900 for Ribeiro. And these guys have, 21 wins, 19 of them are in the very first round. All 11 of Alisson's wins are in the first round. It's safe to say somebody's probably getting knocked out, and probably getting knocked out in the first round. So this is a fight where I'm not going to be too heavy on one side or another. I don't really have a strong lean one way, but I'm slightly leaning Alisson, but Ribeiro could absolutely go out here and knock out Alisson in the first round. Somebody's getting served early, so I do want to have a lot of this fight be heavily exposed, and probably one of my highest exposed fights on the card. Next, we have a kind of a one-sided fight here. We have Rebecki going against Fiore. And this is a fight where we have Rebecki, the biggest favorite, actually the second biggest favorite on the card now, right behind Umar Nurmagomedov, who we'll talk about. But Rebecki is expected to go out here and just run through Nick Fiore, and I kind of think so as well. Rebecki, a very good fighter, just well-rounded everywhere, lots of power on the feet, really good wrestling, really good grappling. The guy's a finisher as well, 16 wins. He's finished, I think, 14 of them. 88% finish rate for the guy. So yeah, I do expect him to get this done and probably get it done early. He's the most expensive guy on the card, and I'm going to have a lot of Rebecki there. As far as Fiore, I just think it's a little bit, I think it's way too soon actually for Fiore here. 6,800, he has some upside, I guess. If he does win it, it's probably early. It's just hard to see him going out there and taking down and submitting Rebecki, which that seems to be Fiore's path to victory against everyone else. So it's Rebecki for me or a pass, and I'm going to have a ton of them. Next, we have another fight where I do like both sides. We have Jimmy Flick going against Charles Johnson. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 240 for a flyweight fight, and that's because of Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick is a killer-be-killed fighter. 21 fights, I believe 19 of them, or 18 of them have finished inside the distance. He's an 88% finish rate, all those coming by sub, and then he's been finished in 4 of his 5 losses, 4 by knockout. It's a striker versus grappler matchup. I think either Johnson goes out there and gets the knockout in the first, second. I don't know if it gets to the third, but early on, I think Johnson's very live for a knockout, and early on, I think Flick's live for a sub. Like, if Flick can get this fight down to the mat, he's an absolute wizard. It's just, I think it's going to be a little bit too hard to take down, hold down, and submit Charles Johnson, who has great takedown defense, who has a great get-up game, who has great jiu-jitsu. I just think it's a tough matchup for Flick, so I'm personally going to be more so on the Johnson side, but Flick, as far as a flyer goes, at 7,200, I think there are much worse options on the slate. And then finally, we have the newcomer here taking the fight on very short notice, Argueta going against Aguirre. And Argueta's a big favorite, and this makes the slate very interesting because Argueta was supposed to have a different opponent in steps Aguirre here on 3 days' notice, and now we have Argueta here, who is one of the biggest favorites at 8,600. So definitely got to take advantage of that. I do think Argueta gets this fight, finishes the fight within the first probably round and a half. Honestly, I think Aguirre is a step down from who Argueta was supposed to face. And I think Aguirre, he's shown skills, but man, he's showing skills against 0-0 guys, 0-2 guys, like very, very low-level competition. I think Argueta should get him out of here. And at 8,600, you got to take advantage. So I will be having a ton of Argueta this week. All right, core plays. These are going to be my highest exposed plays here on the slate. Mateusz Rebecki, 9,400, we talked about him. Love the power. I think he gets the knockout here, actually, but he has the wrestling, the grappling, just a really well-rounded guy, a guy that I'm excited to be in the UFC. I think he makes quick work of this guy, and I'm not saying any hot taker. I mean, he's a big favorite. He's like minus 700, minus 800. He's like minus 225 to win inside the distance. So I'm going to have a ton of Rebecki. I think he does finish this fight, and probably by knockout. Next, we have Dan Ige, 8,400. I think it's a good spot for Dan Ige here. I think it's a really, really big step down in competition for Dan Ige, going from guys like Calvin Kattar, going from guys like Movsar Evloev, the Korean Zombie, Josh Emmett, all top 10 guys, and he's taken a step down to a guy like Damon Jackson, who Damon Jackson's been looking phenomenal, but he's looking phenomenal against, Pat Sabatini, which I think is a great win, but, guys like Kamela Kirk, guys like that. And I think it's a great, great bounce back spot here for Dan Ige, and to get a finish as well. Dan Ige has power in his hands. They call him Dynamite for a reason, 50K for a reason. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to get an early finish. It could be early, it could be late. We saw him go out there and starch Gavin Tucker in the first 10 seconds. I could see that, but I could also see a scenario where Damon Jackson does get him down early, but Damon Jackson starts to tire out, and if you tire out against Dan Ige, he's going to finish you eventually. So I like Dan Ige actually get the finish here, just due to the fact that Damon Jackson has been finished in all of his losses, all 4 of them, 3 by knockout, and I think Dan Ige has the power to put him out. So love me some Dan Ige. We'll talk about Damon Jackson a little bit. I don't think Damon Jackson's the worst play in the world, but I do think Dan Ige finishes him here. Charles Johnson, 9,000. We touched on this a little bit ago. I do think he finishes Flick. I'm going to have a decent amount of this fight as a whole, but more so on the Johnson side. I think it's a really tough matchup for Flick. Johnson around a minus 300 favorite. It's a flyweight fight, but I do think this fight finishes inside the distance more often than not, just due to the killer be killed style of Jimmy Flick there. So I do like Johnson. I do like Johnson to get the finish, and I like him at 9K. And then finally, Dan Argueta, 8,600. Probably one of the best value plays on the slate, since we have Aguirre stepping in on something's touching my, I don't know if there was a spider on my leg, Dan Argueta, great value play at 8,600. He's minus 600. The over-under's set at 2.5. The under's juiced to minus 200. I mean, this fight should finish inside the distance, and it should be Argueta finishing the fight inside the distance. So those are my core plays, my favorite plays on the slate. GPP plays here are tournament plays. We have Umar Nurmagomedov, 9,300. He just scores well. He scores well. And I will say this is a big step up in competition, going from guys like Maness and guys like that to Raoni Barcelos, who's a very high-level guy, but Barcelos is 35 years old, almost 36. He has shown some decline. I mean, he lost to Victor Henry, which was something I still can't believe, but it happened. I think Umar Nurmagomedov, although this is a step up, I think he's ready for this. I think a lot of people are of the opinion that he will fight for a championship one day, and I'm one of those people. And I think, yes, it's a step up, but I think it's a step up he does win. He has the wrestling upside here. Although Barcelos has a 93% takedown defense, he has not fought somebody like Umar Nurmagomedov with the wrestling, the caliber of wrestling he has. And I think, he could potentially knock out Barcelos. Barcelos is pretty hittable. Victor Henry, again, landed something crazy on 200 plus strikes on the guy, and Nurmagomedov has a very good head kick. I could see him landing that. So yeah, I don't mind Nurmagomedov. 9,300 is a big price tag, but I do think he wins this fight. Abdulrazak Alassane, 8,300. We talked about it a little bit ago. This fight's going to finish. It's going to finish inside the distance. It's going to finish probably in the first round. 19 of 21 combined wins of these guys have finished in the first. Alassane, 100% of his wins. So I do like Alassane. I will have a decent amount of them, but this is a fight that I think is borderline must target at these price tags. Punahele Soriano, 8,500. Another high upside guy, a guy that I don't really trust, but he has a lot of power, I think from like a technical standpoint, Kopylov has a lot of tools on the feet. I really like the striking of Kopylov, and Kopylov has some power as well. It's just Soriano has this next level power. I think if there's a knockout in this fight, it probably does come from the Soriano side, and it's probably early. Like the majority of Soriano's knockouts are early, because once he does get in that second round, he tends to slow down quite a bit. So I think Soriano has that first round upside, and for that reason, I will be targeting him at 8,500. And then Ciara Eubanks, 8,800. Kind of a weird fight. This is the very first fight of the night here, Eubanks Cachoeira. I think stylistically it's a very good matchup actually for Eubanks. It's hard to trust her, so I think I'm going to leave her out of the cash games this week, but she's a great tournament play, just because Cachoeira struggles with a couple things, but the biggest thing is the takedown defense, the submission defense. Cachoeira has been submitted twice. Eubanks is a black belt for what it's worth, so I think Eubanks will absolutely be able to get this fight down to the mat early, potentially get an early finish. It's just as the fight goes on, that's where I do have some concerns with Eubanks. She does slow down as the fight goes on. She's now 37 years old. This fight is at 125 pounds, and I'm not even convinced Eubanks makes weight here. So we will see how Eubanks looks on the scales, but I do think she has wrestling upside, 3-round decision wrestling upside, or early first-round finish upside as well. For that reason, I will be having some Eubanks, but the price tag kind of sketches me out. The fight as a whole kind of sketches me out, to be honest, but I do think it's a fight that scores pretty well. Live dogs, we have a couple of them here. Sean Strickland, 7,700. Probably going to be the most popular dog on the slate, just because Sean Strickland on the money line, I believe, is like minus 115, is minus 105. It's about a pick 'em between him and Imavov, and that's not really how it's priced. So, Gastelum, of course, was supposed to fight Imavov, and Imavov was 8,700, and Gastelum was 7,500. In steps Strickland, and they put him here at 7,700, which is interesting. So I just think there's a lot of value on Strickland this week, and it's hard to trust Strickland. It's hard to trust the fight IQ. He is coming in here on short notice, but I do think he's going to be ready to go for 5 rounds, and something that is not to be ignored is the volume of Sean Strickland. Like, if he wins this fight, he's going to be optimal just because he throws a ton. I think he scored like 68 or so in his loss against Jared Cannonier in a fight that a lot of people, including me, and I had Jared Cannonier in that fight, including me, I thought, Sean Strickland won the fight. He would have scored 98 in a win. It's just the volume that Sean Strickland puts out is crazy. He's not going to throw with a ton of volume or a ton of power, but the volume's always going to be there. So I really do like Sean Strickland as an underdog here at 7,700, but everybody's going to like Sean Strickland here as a dog at 7,700. It's just too good to pass up here. Priscilla Cachoeira, 7,400. Yeah, this fight being at 125 makes me like Priscilla Cachoeira a lot more, just due to the fact that Eubanks, like I said, she's getting up there in age. She's cutting down to 125, a weight class where she's just struggled to make weight. And like I said, I'm not even convinced that Eubanks is going to make weight. And with that said, Cachoeira struggled to make weight as well. So I think the scale is going to be very important for this fight. But yeah, if Eubanks can survive that early storm, that early first round and a half, and Eubanks starts to tire out, you do not want to tire out, gas out against somebody in Priscilla Cachoeira who's going to put it on you. So I could see like a late finish for Cachoeira here at 7,400. I don't think she's the worst dog in the world whatsoever. Claudia Ribeiro, 7,900. They're going to stand and bang until one man falls, and for that reason, you got to play this fight. I will have my fair share of Ribeiro, 7,900 as a dog there. Not a ton of dogs really stick out this week, but you got to play some of them just because his path to victory is probably a first-round knockout. And then Damon Jackson, 7,800. Although I'm very high on Dan Ige this week, Damon Jackson's path to victory is going to be to wrestle, right? He's going to get takedowns. He's going to get control time, and Dan Ige has struggled against that in the past. It was against Movsar Evloev, Korean Zombie, and Mirsad Bektic, but still, Damon Jackson does have a path to victory here, and that path is going to score very well on DraftKings. So I will have more Ige, a lot more Ige, but Damon Jackson is not the worst play in the world as far as the underdog goes, especially, like I said, since there's not a lot of underdogs that stick out. And then the other one that kind of stuck out was potentially Roman Kopylov, who is 7,700, another guy that I will be sprinkling in there as well against Punahele Soriano. Just another live dog, I think. Getting to the pump plays, yeah, not a ton sticking out down here in the pump plays, but Jimmy Flake is certainly somebody that does, just because he's dangerous. He has an 88% submission rate. If he wins this fight, It's going to be by submission. It's going to be in the first round. I really don't see any other path. And like I said, he's a wizard on the mat. If he can get the fight down to the mat, there's a very good chance he can finish it. But I just think it's going to be a very tough ask to do that against someone in Charles Johnson. So I'm going to have more Johnson personally, but Flick as a punt play is not the worst look in the world. There's not a ton of guys sticking out down low, but he is one of them. And then fades, Kellen Vieira, 8,200. Really, I'm just fading this whole fight. I just want really nothing to do with it. Pennington, 8,000. Vieira, 8,200. I don't see any finishing upside. The fight goes decision is like minus 300 or something. I think this fight goes to decision. I don't think there's a lot of volume. I don't think there's any finishes. Just a pretty easy pass for me there. So, yeah, but that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys can please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check out DFSbythenumbers.com. Lots of stuff going on over there. My article will be out shortly. It looks like the targets are out, the projections are out. Still waiting for Draftkings to put in the salary of Aguirre, but after that, everything should be out hopefully by Thursday is the plan there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully it is a great year in 2003, and best of luck for UFC Vegas 67. See you later.